This is Steve from We Are Change Connecticut, my man Jeff with the camera, and we're about to interview Immortal Technique. Check it out. Can you give us a comment while you're here today?
Sure. I came here because I wanted to discuss more than just criminal justice, but I wanted to discuss just justice, and then criminality, and who the real criminals, and who really needs justice, and what kind of justice we really need. I think that we'll be judged based on the actions of what we've taken place or taken part in terms of what we've allowed to occur in our society. In the future generations, people will look back and look at America's role in Afghanistan, what we were doing in Pakistan, the way we let the Federal Reserve hijack the economy of the country, and these are things that we'll be taken task to. But unfortunately, those people will be dead before, we ever have the opportunity to hold them to the letter of the law. And the reason is that they've decided to control what the law is. I said it on the Martyr. How can a government that's run by corporations regulate corporations? There's no system of checks and balances there, and I think that that's one of the ultimate failures that we're trying to address here at that conference.
And that brings about my second question is, how can we go into their courthouses and use their laws and against their judges and, do this?
I mean, I think it's not so much the court system that this will be played out in particularly, but also the court of public opinion, which is a very, very powerful place to be, and where the rules that they've decided to designate don't apply, because you can make cops get off for murder and for whatever they do to a population, but realistically speaking, that just damages the system even more when they realize that individuals are not being held to the same letter of the law as other people. It's hurting them. It's hurting their government. Listen, America hasn't won a war since World War II. Empires don't collapse because you lose wars. They collapse when people stop believing in them. And that's what we're confronted in right now. People are going to stop believing in America if it becomes so corrupt that it's a caricature of itself and a laughing stock around the rest of the world. How can they stand for freedom and justice when they can't even rein in their own allies for freedom and justice? Imagine if my job was to crusade against people who are in abusive relationships and to rescue women, if my goal and career in life was to have so many shelters for women that are escaping abused houses, and people find out that all my friends beat the shit out their wife, my brother's violent child abuser, my uncle's raping his kids. That's what America is. It's someone who's trying to dictate to the rest of the world and say, oh, you are doing so terribly wrong, without being able to confront its own allies and said, hey man, you're part of the hypocrisy too. The fact that we enabled you to come to power so we could have access to your natural resources, this is what we got. Immortal Technique, we out.
Thank you very much, man.
I was removed. I was definitely in the way. I was very outspoken against the war, and I was subsequently arrested on the Patriot Act and locked up in prison on Carswell Air Force Base while the government rewrote the history books.
Waking me up to the biggest theft ever perpetrated on the American people and on mankind in general. So I knew that Ron Paul was a good guy, but once I added up Ron Paul plus and the Fed, and it kind of all started to come together for me.